He's smiling at the baby but refuses to sign the form. I'm Jessica, 32, a nurse from Dayton, Ohio. The moment freezes like the sterile air in this hospital room, and for a second I tell myself I imagined it. The nurse stands beside us holding the clipboard with the acknowledgement form, her smile fading as the silence stretches. Ethan's eyes don't waver from our daughter swaddled in a bassinet beside the bed, pink skin still crinkled from birth. His smile isn't forced. That's what terrifies me most. It's calm, present, like nothing is wrong, like this isn't the moment that rewrites my entire life. "You're not signing," I whisper, too tired to raise my voice, my legs still numb from the epidural, my soul still shaking from the 8-hour labor. Ethan gently sets the pen on the edge of the tray table, brushes hair from my forehead, and kisses me like everything's fine. "Just, not right now," he says. "Let's talk when you've rested." The nurse, sensing the weight in the air, quietly excuses herself. I stare at the door after it closes, not daring to speak. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe he's overwhelmed. But then Ethan steps into the hallway, phone in hand, muttering something about calling his sister. The baby stirs, a soft gurgle escaping her mouth. I blink hard and adjust the pillow behind me. She needs to be fed, changed, held, all things I know how to do professionally and now personally. What I don't know is how to read this man I married. 10 minutes pass. Still no Ethan. The clipboard lies abandoned at the foot of the bed. I press the call button, asking for formula. When the nurse returns, she sets the small bottle down beside me. I don't ask if she saw Ethan in the hall. I don't want her answer. As I lift my daughter into my arms, cradling her soft body against my chest, I feel something inside me tilt. This moment was supposed to be wrapped in tears and joy. Instead, I'm balancing joy with dread. Ethan returns, eventually slipping back into the room like nothing happened. He doesn't explain, doesn't touch the form. Instead, he says, "She's perfect," and snaps a photo. I stare at him, my lips dry, my voice caught somewhere in my throat. "You forgot to sign," I say, trying to sound casual even as my fingers tremble. "Let's talk later," he says. "When things are calmer." I don't push. "Not yet." The baby starts to cry. He doesn't move to help. I feed her, burp her, change her. He watches. The nurse returns to check my vitals. "Everything okay with the paperwork?" she asks gently. I glance at Ethan. He's suddenly very interested in the window. "We're still reviewing," I say. She nods, scribbles something down, and exits. My body aches. My heart too. He's here, but he isn't. I keep waiting for his gaze to soften, for him to pick up the pen. But he doesn't. Eventually I sleep. When I wake, it's dawn. He's sitting in the same chair, scrolling his phone. The baby's asleep in the bassinet. The clipboard is untouched. That's when it sinks in. This isn't shock. This is a choice. And choices have consequences. I watch him memorizing his posture, the way his foot taps lightly like he's keeping time with a song only he can hear. He looks peaceful, which feels like a kind of violence. I wonder what story he's already spinning in his mind. Maybe he's framing it as hesitation. Maybe he's calling it caution. But I know better. Men don't hesitate when they're proud. Fathers don't pause when they want to belong. When the new shift nurse enters with fresh towels, Ethan stands abruptly. "I'm going to grab coffee," he says. She nods politely. He leaves. Again. This time I don't expect him back anytime soon. The nurse offers to help me clean up. As she adjusts the sheets, her eyes fall on the clipboard. Still deciding, she asks softly. I nod. Lie. She doesn't press. When she leaves, I slide the form closer. Ethan's name is printed clearly beside mine. Under it, a blank line for his signature. Below that, a line for a witness. The absence screams louder than any outburst could. I reread the instruction block. This form confirms legal acknowledgement of paternity with all attendant rights and responsibilities. The words blur. My daughter makes a soft, cooing noise. I turn to her, and something inside me hardens, not cold but clear. I didn't expect to start motherhood this way. But maybe I should have. There had been cracks, small ones, but I ignored them. The rushed wedding, the night he said, "Let's not involve lawyers. We trust each other." The way he never touched my belly unless someone else was watching. Still, nothing prepared me for this moment. Not as a nurse, not as a woman, not as a wife. I lean over the bassinet, brushing my baby's forehead. "I've got you," I whisper, with or without him. Some absences cut deeper than abandonment. They pretend to stay while planning their exit. She deserves to know why her father walked out the moment she arrived. I used to believe that love was most visible in the hard times, in the whispered encouragement during contractions, in the grip of a hand that refused to let go. That belief started to rot during the ride to the hospital. Ethan had been quiet but present, eyes on the road, fingers occasionally tapping the steering wheel to the rhythm of the windshield wipers. I moaned through each contraction, clenching the seatbelt strap like a lifeline. He glanced at me now and then and muttered, "Almost there," like he was guiding a stranger through traffic instead of driving his wife to deliver their child. At the time, I didn't question it. I was too focused on breathing and not passing out. But now, every detail from that morning replays in my mind like evidence. At every red light, he checked his phone. He took a call in the parking lot telling me he'd meet me at triage. When I asked who it was, he smiled, kissed my forehead, and said, "Just work." That lie tasted sweet then. Now it's bitter. In the hospital room before the refusal, he had coached my breathing like a YouTube tutorial. He counted seconds, wiped sweat from my brow, and even cracked a joke when I screamed. I laughed through a tear. I wanted to believe we were fine. But somewhere between dilation and delivery, something shifted. I remember the nurse asking if the father wanted to cut the cord. Ethan had smiled and said, "That's all her." At the time, I was too focused on pushing to be offended, but now I realize he had already started stepping away. I hear the hospital intercom call for a pediatric consult. My baby sleeps. The form remains unsigned. I think back to last week, sitting in our living room with our hospital bag half packed. Ethan asked me if I was sure about the middle name. I'd suggested Elise after my grandmother. He nodded. "That's solid. Strong." That was the last opinion he shared about the baby. The rest became shrugs. I thought it was nerves, first-time dad anxiety. But maybe it was something else, something growing in the silence between us. His mother hadn't called since I hit my 3rd trimester. She sent a card that read, "Best wishes on your journey, not our journey." His sister Leah had come to the baby shower, arms crossed most of the time. She handed me a small package, diapers, and a half-hearted smile, and said, "You'll figure it out." I brushed it off. Families are complicated. Now I see it was a warning. I remember the last dinner we had together before labor started. Ethan had made spaghetti, poured me a glass of cranberry juice in a wine glass to feel festive. He said we'd be unstoppable as parents, that the baby would change everything in a good way. But then he added, "No matter what happens, we'll be fine." I assumed he meant the sleepless nights. I assumed wrong. That memory won't leave me. I hear it when I look at the crib beside my hospital bed. I taste it in the sterile air. I feel it in my spine every time I look at that blank signature line. A knock at the door interrupts my thoughts. A nurse enters with a clipboard. "Jessica, just a quick form for your chart." I nod and take it my hand, automatically reaching for the pen. But my eyes can't help flicking to the birth acknowledgement still lying there like a loaded gun. "Is he back?" I ask without meaning to. The nurse hesitates. "He stepped out again. Said he needed air." "Of course he did," I mutter. She offers a neutral smile and steps out. Alone again. I cradle my daughter, feeling the rhythm of her breath against my skin. She doesn't know her father has one foot out the door. She doesn't know her mother is unraveling silently. She only knows warmth and milk and heartbeat. I try not to cry. I fail. I wipe the tears quickly, not wanting to salt her face. My phone buzzes on the tray table. It's a text from Leah. He's probably overwhelmed. Give him space. No concern for me, just defense of her brother. I don't respond. Instead, I whisper to my baby, "We'll figure it out, won't we?" She shifts slightly, makes a soft noise, and falls back asleep. I stroke her tiny fingers, marveling at how complete she feels, how present, how real, unlike her father. I remember the exact moment she came into the world, the heat, the weight, the cry. I expected Ethan to break down, to weep. But he didn't. He had smiled, not sad, not overjoyed, just smiled, like he was posing for a photo that hadn't been taken. The nurse had handed him the form not long after. He had held it loosely like it didn't belong to him. He had said, "Let's wait, there's no rush." But there is, legally, emotionally, spiritually. His refusal didn't happen in a courtroom or in anger. It happened in stillness, in the sacred quiet after birth. And somehow that makes it worse. I watch the clock. It ticks past noon. He's been gone nearly an hour this time. My body still aches and I can't move fast, but my mind is sprinting. I think of all the times he made me feel like I was overthinking, like I was hormonal, like I needed to calm down. I think of all the times I swallowed doubt because I wanted love to win, because I wanted this family to work. But now I wonder, was he ever really in it? Was I just a chapter he planned to close? I glance back at the form. The hospital logo glints in the fluorescent light. One line is filled my name, one line is not his. And suddenly I hear my own voice again, quiet but undeniable. He held my hand in labor. I held on to a lie. The scariest kind of betrayal is the one that smiles while holding your child. If I don't find the truth soon, I'll be raising her in a house of questions. The night before my water broke, Ethan came home late. I was already in bed, curled on my side with a heating pad on my back, and my fingers tracing the edge of the baby blanket we'd bought at the outlet store in June. It was the one with the tiny, stitched stars, he said, looked like something out of his childhood. He walked into the room smelling faintly of cologne and hotel shampoo, not ours. I remember asking Longday. He hesitated, then said traffic was awful. He didn't undress fully, just kicked off his shoes and slid into bed in a t-shirt and jeans. I wanted to ask more but didn't. I told myself he was just tired. He kissed my shoulder and said, "No matter what, we'll get through this." It hit different now. Like a lawyer trying to preface bad news, that phrase stuck with me. Now, days later, sitting in this maternity room with stale air and a mechanical bassinet hum, I realize he had already begun rehearsing his exit. The signs were never loud, never explosive. They were quiet, delays, sighs, phrases that sounded like love but lacked weight, and I accepted them because I was in too deep, and hope is a slow poison when you drink it daily. My phone vibrates on the tray. It's another message from Leah. "Has he talked to you? He's not answering me either." I don't believe her. Not after last night. She had shown up with coffee that tasted like guilt. She had smiled too wide. "Did Ethan take care of the paperwork?" she asked, barely hiding the edge in her voice. I had told her no. She had nodded quickly, too quickly, like it confirmed something she already knew. Then she sat in the corner and scrolled through her phone like a babysitter, waiting for her shift to end. When I asked if she wanted to hold the baby, she had said, "Not yet. Let her rest." But I think it was her who wasn't ready, or maybe she didn't want to get attached to a niece her brother was trying to distance himself from. My thoughts swirl and knot. I want to cry, but the tears won't come this time. Instead, I go back to the beginning. The first time Ethan looked at the pregnancy test. His face had lit up genuine, I thought. He picked me up and twirled me in the kitchen, knocking over a glass. He had said, "This is it. We're doing it." I'd never seen him more alive. Where did that man go? What did I miss between that joy and this silence? I remember how he insisted we not tell his family until the second trimester. "My mom's superstitious," he said. But when we finally told her, her reaction had been lukewarm. A polite, "That's nice," followed by, "Have you two talked about a will?" I had laughed. She hadn't. Ethan dismissed it, but that comment settled into my ribs and never left. Now in the hospital, it rattles louder. My baby starts to fuss. I lift her gently, her tiny fists flailing until she finds my skin. She latches. I watch her as she feeds her eyes closed in total trust. I whisper, "You're not a mistake." No matter what anyone says or doesn't sign, she doesn't understand. But maybe I need to say it more for myself. The door opens. A nurse steps in, unfamiliar. She introduces herself as Dana. "I'm just checking vitals," she says softly. She hooks up the cuff, listens to my heart, writes something on the chart, then she glances at the clipboard still lying untouched. "Has the father signed yet?" she asks. I shake my head. "Not yet." She offers a pause, then says, "It happens. Not often, but it happens. I don't ask for statistics. I just nod." She finishes quickly and exits. Alone again. The baby sleeps in my arms. I want to reach for answers, but they seem suspended just out of reach like IV bags above the bed. My phone lights up. This time it's from Ethan. One line, "We need to talk before I sign anything." No hello, no how are you. Just a line that splits me in two. I don't respond. I lie back, close my eyes, and hold my daughter tighter. The silence stretches again, like an old bridge ready to break. Later, Nurse Camilla returns with fresh linens. She smiles, but I see something behind it, concern maybe. She gently folds the blanket, then asks, "Can I bring you anything?" "Just answers," I say. She pauses at the door. Sometimes they show up. Sometimes you have to go get them. I think about that for a long time after she leaves, because suddenly I'm not sure I've been looking. I've been waiting for Ethan, for clarity, for someone to fix what he's quietly breaking. I look at the baby and realize I don't have time to wait anymore. The longer this lingers, the deeper the scar. I open my texts and scroll to one I never wanted to use. My cousin Mara. She's a paralegal. I type, "Can I ask you something about paternity rights?" Her reply comes fast. "Everything okay?" I hesitate. Then type, "Not sure. He won't sign." A pause. "Then I'm calling you." And just like that, something shifts in me again. Not rage, not even fear. Just clarity. When someone leaves you uncertain on purpose, it's because they've already decided on the outcome. I'm not going to wait for Ethan to write the ending this time. I'll write it myself. There's a hallway just outside the maternity wing that smells like cinnamon. Not from cleaning products or comfort, but from the little cafe across the corridor that serves stale muffins and bad coffee in paper cups. That hallway has a view of the courtyard, 2 vending machines, and a security camera dome in the ceiling that quietly watches everything. That's where Nurse Camilla saw him. She told me later, but I can picture it perfectly. Ethan standing there like he was waiting for something, but not a child. Not a wife. Just a moment to justify his absence. His jacket was folded over his arm. He was holding his phone. Not talking. Not texting. Just scrolling. Camilla had approached him casually, clipboard in hand, because she thought it was a simple oversight. "Hey," she said, the pediatricians, asking for the acknowledgement form. They need it before rounds. Ethan looked up slowly like he'd just remembered where he was. "I'm not signing anything today," he said. No anger, no apology, just flat. Camilla blinked. "You're the father, right?" He glanced at the ceiling camera, then back at her. "It's complicated," he replied. Then he turned and walked away past the vending machines, past the security office, toward the elevators. She stood there, stunned, watching him disappear like a man who'd just delivered a package and was heading to his car. Later, when she returned to my room, her face said more than her words. "Did Ethan come back?" she asked gently. I shook my head. "He said he needed space," I said. Camilla nodded, then paused at the window. "You know, there's surveillance in the hallway, right?" "What do you mean?" I asked. "That camera by the vending machines," she said. "Everything's time-stamped. Conversations, movements, just in case." I blinked. "Just in case of what?" "In case people try to change the story later," she said. I looked down at my daughter. She was sleeping again, one hand curled into a tiny fist. "Would I be able to request that footage?" I asked. Camilla hesitated. "You'd have to go through patient relations." "But it exists." A silence settled between us. Then she added, "I saw him. He didn't seem confused. He seemed done." The words landed like a stone in my stomach. I thanked her and watched her leave her clipboard pressed to her chest. I didn't cry. I didn't speak. I just stared at the empty chair beside my bed, the same one Ethan had sat in hours earlier while telling me, "She's perfect." Maybe that's the worst part. He didn't leave in anger or fear. He left in quiet certainty. Like a decision already made. I opened my phone and searched, "Can a mother file a birth certificate alone?" The answer came up instantly, yes, in many states. But it raised legal implications later. I felt like I was Googling how to be a single parent without ever saying the words out loud. I clicked the screen off and stared at my baby. She was here. She was real. She deserved more than this limbo. Another knock. I expected a nurse, but it was Leah. Again, holding a tote bag and a coffee. "I brought some things from home," she said, too cheery. I looked at the bag. Inside were nursing pads, a change of clothes, and the slippers I'd left by the bed. "Thanks," I said. She sat without invitation, looking around like she owned the place. "Have you heard from Ethan?" I asked. She shrugged. "Not really. He said he needed time." I kept my voice flat. Time for what? She avoided my gaze. "Jess, he's scared. This is big. The baby, everything, he just wasn't ready for how fast it hit." "He had 9 months," I said. "So did I." She bit her lip. "Men process differently. He had time to process everything except the part where he becomes her father," I said. "That's the only part that matters now." Leah leaned forward. "I'm not defending what he did. I just want you to know he's not trying to hurt you." I looked at the sleeping baby again. Intent doesn't change impact. Leah was quiet for a moment. Then she stood. "I'll let you rest. But before leaving," she added, "maybe you don't have to make any decisions yet. Maybe just wait a bit." I didn't respond. The door clicked shut. I sat in silence, then picked up my phone and called Mara. "Can you still talk?" I asked. "Yeah," she said immediately. "I've been waiting." "What's going on?" I told her everything. Not just the refusal, but the way he moved, spoke, left, returned, left again, the camera footage. The form still blank. Mara exhaled slowly. If he doesn't sign, you can file solo. It's your right. But if he contests later, it becomes messy. Custody child support name changes all of it. What if I don't want anything from him? I asked. Then you document everything. Every refusal, every witness, every timestamp. Make sure your hospital chart includes his absences. Paper is louder than memory. I looked at the form again. The pen beside it, the empty line. He's making himself a ghost, I said. And ghosts don't get parental rights. Mara paused. You're not crazy, Jess. You're just waking up to someone else's lie. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. I think I want the footage. Good, she said. Start gathering what he left behind. The hallway he walked down without looking back will follow him forever. And I'm done sitting in silence while he writes the story of our daughter's beginning. He came back at 5:07 a.m. I know the time exactly because I was awake staring at the white digital numbers on the monitor screen above the baby's bassinet. The room was quiet, lit only by a dim wall sconce. I didn't pretend to be asleep. I wanted him to see me awake, alert, aware. Ethan entered like a guest in someone else's home, cautious steps, backpack slung over one shoulder, a faint scent of cold air, and something like aftershave clinging to him. His eyes scanned the room, but he didn't meet mine. You're awake, he said, like it was a surprise. I didn't respond. Just watched him. He set the bag down beside the chair, avoided the clipboard like it had grown thorns. I had to go home, he said. I needed a shower to think. I still didn't say anything. He walked to the sink, washed his hands like a surgeon, then dried them on the paper towel roll with deliberate calm. You should rest, he added. I'll watch her. Do you want her? I asked. Not softly, not accusing. If he doesn't sign, you can file solo. It's your right. But if he contests later, it becomes messy. Custody child support name changes all of it. What if I don't want anything from him? I asked. Then you document everything. Every refusal, every witness, every timestamp. Make sure your hospital chart includes his absences. Paper is louder than memory. I looked at the form again. The pen beside it, the empty line. He's making himself a ghost, I said. And ghosts don't get parental rights. Mara paused. You're not crazy, Jess. You're just waking up to someone else's lie. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. I think I want the footage. Good, she said. Start gathering what he left behind. The hallway he walked down without looking back will follow him forever. And I'm done sitting in silence while he writes the story of our daughter's beginning. He came back at 5:07 a.m. Just a fact-shaped question. He blinked. What, our daughter? Do you want her? The silence that followed wasn't uncertainty, it was calculation. He finally said, She's yours, not ours, not mine. Just that. A small incision dressed as diplomacy. My heart made a sound I hope I never hear again. So you're not signing? I asked. He rubbed the back of his neck, sat on the edge of the chair. I'm not saying never. You're saying not now. I just think we need to talk. Then he stood. I need sleep, he said. I'll come back later. Don't, I said. He paused at the door. Jess, you've already decided. I interrupted. Just admit it. It's not that simple. It is, I said. You're just scared to say it out loud. He looked like he might argue. But instead he nodded once, turned and left. I sat in the silence he left behind, feeling the echo of his words bouncing off the sterile walls. He was gone again. But not in body, his presence had left long before. At the top, in bold black font, it read, Refusal of Acknowledgement of Paternity, Hospital Protocol 12A. I stared at it. My name printed clearly at the top, Patient Jessica Moreno. Below that form, number 381P, date August 19, Witness L. Perez, RN, Room Maternity, 304. The section that made my lungs stop working was a short note scribbled in Ethan's handwriting, not the right time. We'll revisit legally. My hands shook. He already filed this, I whispered. Camilla nodded. He gave it to the nurse on the night shift. Around 4 a.m. Before he came in here? Yes. So he lied. To my face. Camilla didn't answer. She didn't need to. The form did all the talking. I looked down at my baby. She was sleeping again, one hand curled against her cheek like a question waiting for an answer. I blinked away the sting in my eyes. What happens now? I asked. Camilla hesitated. Well, usually, the hospital files it as incomplete. But with that note and the witness signature, it becomes part of your medical chart. Legally, he's declined. I folded the paper slowly, careful not to crumple it. Has this ever happened before? Once, she said. 3 years ago. He didn't come back either. And the baby, the mother, filed solo. Took his name off everything. I sat with that for a long time. Then said, "Do you think he ever wanted her?" Camilla took a breath. "I don't know what he wanted, but I know what he chose." The scariest betrayals don't come with shouting. They arrive, folded, signed, and filed before you even know they exist. And now that I've seen the form, I can't unsee the truth. Camilla didn't say another word after handing me the form. She just touched my shoulder lightly, almost like asking for permission, and then left the room, the door clicking behind her so softly it felt like the end of a lullaby. I sat there with the refusal paper on my lap, unfolded again, reading and rereading Ethan's note. "Not the right time. We'll revisit legally." 5 words. 5 cowardly, curated, evasive words. What kind of man writes that right after his daughter takes her first breath? The form was official, stamped in the corner with the hospital's embossed seal. Protocol 12A. A document I'd never even heard of in nursing school. Now it was defining the future of my daughter's identity. And mine. I examined the field slowly, as if combing for a mistake. Patient Jessica Moreno. Form number 381P. Date August 19. Witness L. Perez, RN Room Maternity 304. His handwriting in the father acknowledgement section wasn't rushed or panicked. It was neat, deliberate, like a man signing a contract he'd read twice. The realization hit harder than any scream or argument could have. This wasn't confusion. This wasn't fear. This was strategy. Ethan had been planning this. Maybe not since the day I told him I was pregnant, but certainly long enough to walk into a hospital, hold our daughter, pretend he was overwhelmed, and then quietly file a legal exit strategy behind my back. The moment my baby cried for the first time, I cried too. He apparently was filing paperwork to become a memory. That's the thing about these forms, they're clean, clinical. They strip emotion away and leave only ink. But behind every field and checkbox, there's a woman sitting in a hospital gown holding a child she now has to defend from the silence of her partner. My daughter stirred in her bassinet. I rose slowly, legs still stiff, and scooped her up into my arms. Her warmth settled me. "It's you and me now," I whispered. "No more waiting for someone who signed us away." A knock. Not a nurse. Not Leah. Not even Ethan. It was Dr. Cho. She entered calmly, closing the door behind her. In her hands was a sealed folder. "Jessica," she said, "I wanted to speak to you privately. I was informed that Mr. Moreno submitted a paternity refusal this morning." I nodded. "I saw it." She handed me the folder. "We're required to attach a physician witness statement whenever a parent formally declines acknowledgement under hospital care. This is yours." I hesitated before opening it. "Does this mean anything legally?" I asked. "It means," she said gently, "that the hospital has officially recorded his decision. That becomes part of your chart. If he contests later, this provides context." I opened the folder. Statement reference 1911C. Subject Ethan Moreno. Date and time. August 1, 90412 a.m. Filed by Dr. Min Cho, M.D. Notarized by M. Hampton, RN. Content. Per attending Mr. Ethan Moreno declined to sign parental acknowledgement despite verbal counseling. Patient Jessica Moreno was not present during submission. Request logged under Protocol 12A in accordance with hospital legal policy. I blinked. So he didn't just sign the form, he submitted it quietly, without telling me. "Yes," she said. "Most patients at least inform their partners." He did not. I felt dizzy, like the floor tilted just slightly beneath my bed. "What happens now? You can file independently," Dr. Cho said. "Your rights as the mother are primary in this case. But we are obligated to inform the registrar that the father declined, so he's not on the birth certificate, not unless he petitions separately later, which he can. But it becomes more difficult once this documentation exists. So I raise her alone unless he changes his mind and a judge allows it. In simple terms, yes." I held the folder closer, then nodded. "Thank you, doctor." Cho offered a soft look. "I'm sorry this happened." I didn't answer, because part of me wasn't, not anymore. His name wouldn't be on her first legal document, and that at this point felt like a blessing. After she left, I placed both the refusal form and the witness statement beside my chart. Then I pulled out my phone and called Mara again. She answered instantly. "I have a folder," I said, official signed, from the doctor. "And I have the refusal form too." "Good," she said. "You're building a timeline. If he tries to show up later and act like he was misinformed, this shuts that down." What do I do next? You fill out your portion of the acknowledgement form. Leave his blank. That way it's documented that you tried. And the birth certificate, submit it with just your name. Let the hospital registrar guide you through it. I looked at the baby sleeping again. Her face was calm, untouched by the adult decisions circling her future. She deserves more, I whispered. And she'll get it, Mara replied, with or without him. Some men choose silence over fatherhood and think the paper trail won't follow them. But this time the silence is being archived, time-stamped, and sealed by witnesses. I spent the next few hours in a blur of forms and silent rituals. The registrar came to my room just after noon with a stack of official papers, each labeled in precise black print, Certificate of Live Birth Mother's Verification, and the same acknowledgement form Ethan refused to complete. She explained everything slowly, kindly, as if I hadn't already memorized it all, from the dozens of patients I'd guided through this process as a nurse. But being the patient was different. Being the mother meant reading every line, with the sharp awareness that this name, this ink, this paper would shape how the world saw my daughter. You'll sign here, the registrar said, pointing to the mother field. And if the father hasn't signed, you can leave this portion blank. But note, once this is filed, adding a name later requires a legal petition. I nodded. That's fine, I said. He declined. Form 381P. I have a copy. She blinked, surprised by the specificity. Okay, she said, adjusting her tone. Then we'll proceed under single-parent registration. My hand didn't shake when I signed. My name, Jessica Moreno. My daughter's Aria Elise Moreno. Father, blank. I held the pen longer than needed after the last stroke, just long enough to feel the weight of the empty space beside her name. A name, Ethan once said, sounded like a melody. Apparently, the song ended before it ever played. When the registrar left, I held Aria in my arms, whispering promises I couldn't yet fully understand. I told her I would protect her, explain things with age-appropriate honesty, and never make her feel like half a family. Camilla came in around 1 p.m., bringing warm socks and a new swaddle. She didn't ask about Ethan. She just helped me adjust the bassinet and smiled softly when Aria gripped her finger. She's strong, she said. All good ones are, I replied. Then Camilla paused. Do you remember the last shift you worked here? I blinked. Before my leave, yes, labor room 2. You helped a teen mom whose partner ghosted her after the second ultrasound. Alyssa, I said. She cried while I held her baby so she could sleep. Camilla nodded. You said something to her that stuck with me. What? I asked. You told her, it's not the man who shows up at conception that matters, it's the one who stays after delivery. I smiled faintly. And here we are. And here we are, she echoed. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was now the one in the bed, stripped down to fatigue and paperwork, trying to find dignity in abandonment. But unlike Alyssa, I knew the system. I had allies. And more than anything, I had my voice. Mara called again that afternoon. I've been thinking, she said, you need to protect yourself long-term. If Ethan tries to show up months from now and act like he wants custody, he left a paper trail, I said. And I have 2 witnesses. Camilla, Dr. Cho. Still, Mara said, write everything down. Start a chronology. Include texts, timestamps, visitor logs. Screenshot Leah's messages too. Already done. Good. You're doing everything right. Why does it feel like I'm still losing? I whispered. Mara didn't answer right away. Then she said, because you are. Just not the way you think. You're losing the future you imagined. That's grief. It's allowed. But grief doesn't mean failure. I let that sit. Then replied, he said she's mine, like she was never his. Then let him live with that. I looked at Aria again, her tiny chest rising and falling with perfect rhythm. No idea that one parent had just signed out of her life, while the other was signing everything necessary to begin it. That night I sat by the window watching the courtyard lights flicker on. Below, the hallway where Ethan walked away looked almost peaceful. Camilla passed through it with a cart. A janitor mopped slowly. A couple in scrubs laughed softly near the vending machine. Normalcy lived there, but not for me. Not yet. I opened my notebook and began to write AUG 19-040 AM. Ethan files refusal form 381P. AUG 19-057 AM. Returns to room. Avoids explanation. Leaves again. AUG 1912. 10 p.m. Registrar presents live birth certificate. I sign alone. AUG 19-01-25 p.m. Dr. Cho delivers witness statement 1911C. AUG 19-0242 p.m. Mara call advised legal prep. AUG 19-0317 p.m. Leah text. He's overwhelmed, don't rush him. Filed screenshots, forwarded to Mara. The act of documenting wasn't just legal. It was emotional. It was proof that I saw what happened, that I wouldn't allow time or apology to rewrite it. That night, as the lights dimmed and nurses whispered in the hallway, I kissed my daughter's forehead and said, "You don't need a signature to be wanted." Some children are born into the silence between what's promised and what's delivered, but Arya will grow up knowing her mother filled every blank her father left behind. I didn't expect Dr. Cho to return the next day, but she did first thing in the morning, long before breakfast rounds or pediatric checks. She walked in holding a slim, sealed envelope. "This is a duplicate for your records," she said simply. Her tone was different today, not clinical, not distant, almost protective. She set the envelope on the bedside table next to the breast pump and the half-empty water bottle I hadn't touched since midnight. "Is this about the statement I asked already, knowing the answer?" She nodded. "Your cousin Mara asked if we could make a notarized copy available to you since you're entering into early legal prep. Hospital compliance approved it. So now I have a witness document from both the nurse and the attending physician." "Correct," she said. "You've got eyes on the record from both sides." "That's more than I got from him," I muttered. "Doctor." Cho's face didn't change. "I also want to share something that's off the record," she said, voice dropping. "For your own understanding." I straightened. "Okay." She folded her hands together. "We often assume that paternity refusals come from confusion or panic. Sometimes they do. But when it's this coordinated, quiet, premeditated, and submitted without any open conflict, it usually points to external influence." I frowned. "You mean his family, possibly? Or legal guidance, sometimes both." I remembered the way Leah kept telling me to give Ethan time. To wait, to not file anything too fast. As if stalling was in my best interest. "Is there a pattern?" I asked. "There's always a pattern," she said. "And your husband's timing was unusually specific. He refused paternity at 4:12 a.m. Returned at 5:07 a.m. Engaged you in calm conversation, never mentioned the filing, and left again before noon. He used proximity to delay your action. If you hadn't asked Camilla about the camera, you might not have discovered the filing until discharge." The blood in my arms ran colder. "So he wanted me to walk out without knowing, or without objecting in time to contest the filing," she said gently. "Sometimes delays are strategic. Sometimes they're cowardly. Often they're both." I didn't realize I was clutching the envelope until I felt the corners bend under my palm. "Thank you," I whispered. Dr. Cho nodded. "You're doing the right thing. Don't second-guess your instinct just because someone else did." After she left, I opened the envelope. Inside was a formal copy of the witness statement printed on hospital letterhead, notarized, and initialed on every page. Physician Statement Form 1911C. Patient Jessica Moreno. Event Refusal of Acknowledgement of Paternity by Ethan Moreno. Date the 19th of August 2025. Time logged 04:12 a.m. Filed by Dr. Min Cho, M.D. Notarized by M. Hampton, R.N. Summary. On August 19, Mr. Ethan Moreno entered Hospital Unit Maternity 304 at 04:05 a.m., requested assistance locating a legal filing form. I was paged to review. I informed Mr. Moreno of implications. He declined to consult partner and submitted Form 381P. Behavior was composed, witnessed by nurse present. Submission scanned and filed under Legal Archive #427 Basha V. Patient Jessica Moreno was asleep, not informed until subsequent staff shift. Everything I feared was now printed in permanent language. He had filed while I slept. Not during an argument. Not after a fight. While I slept. While our daughter slept. While the quiet of new motherhood covered everything like a soft blanket. That was the betrayal, not the absence of love but the presence of planning. Later that afternoon I told Camilla I wanted the camera footage. She didn't flinch. "Patient Relations will email you the release form," she said. "Once signed, you'll get a digital copy." "Even if it's just him walking and refusing," I asked. "It's still evidence," she said. "Even silence has timestamps." I didn't realize how much I needed to hear that I wasn't crazy for calling in the trail, that quiet choices still echoed. Leah texted again that evening. "Leah, he's struggling. I think he'll come around. Just don't do anything drastic." I didn't answer. I didn't need to, because by now I'd learned to read the subtext in her words. Wait long enough for him to change his mind. Don't make decisions he can't undo. But I wasn't waiting anymore. And some decisions need to be made when your hands are shaking. That night I sat in the recliner with Arya asleep on my chest. Her breath was slow, even peaceful. I looked down at her and whispered, "He filed against you while I slept, but I'll fight for you while you sleep." I clicked open my notes app and started a second log. Evidence timeline, physician statement 1911C, filed the 19th of August 2025, 0412 a.m., confirmed August 20, delivered by Dr. Cho. Notes submission, occurred without mother's knowledge, declined partner consultation, legal archive #427V, witnessed M. Hampton RN, logged for counsel, enclosure ID saved for court response. I included screenshots of the file cover, page numbers, and the seal. Mara had told me to leave no room for ambiguity. Judges don't care about feelings, she said. They care about paperwork. And now I had both. Truth and proof, facts and feeling. I looked out the hospital window at the same hallway he'd walked through 2 mornings ago, the hallway that now lived in my memory like a fault line. When someone erases themselves from your story, you learn to write in bold, and now, with the evidence in hand, I was done writing him back in. The following morning began with an email. Short, dry. Not from Ethan, but from a family law firm. The subject line read, "Paternity Deferral Legal Notice for Review." I stared at it for a full minute before clicking. The message inside was brief. This message serves as formal notice that Mr. Ethan Moreno has opted to defer signing a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. Mr. Moreno reserves the right to revisit this matter at a later date through legal petition if desired. Kindly refrain from further contact until future proceedings if initiated. No signature, no warmth. Just detachment wearing a tie. I leaned back in my chair and exhaled slowly. This was confirmation he wasn't just leaving me. He was trying to protect himself from accountability. By involving a lawyer, he was distancing himself not only emotionally but legally, while still keeping the door open for control. He wanted rights without responsibilities, access without effort, and worst of all, he wanted it on his timeline. But babies don't grow on someone else's clock. They grow every second with or without a father in the room. I forwarded the email to Mara immediately. Her reply came 3 minutes later. Do not respond to him. Respond only through legal channel if court petitions. Also add this to your timeline and screenshot headers with timestamps. Already done. I was learning fast. That same morning the hospital finalized my discharge forms. I signed them without hesitation. Camilla hugged me quietly in the hallway, the same hallway where she'd watched Ethan disappear. "Do you want someone to wheel you out?" she asked. I shook my head. I'd rather walk. And I did, slowly, proudly. My bag in one hand, Arya in the other. Her weight against my chest steadied me. In the lobby, a young father was holding a car seat awkwardly, trying to fasten the straps as his wife gave instructions. For a second, something tightened in my chest, but it passed. That wasn't my life. And now I was sure it never would be. I called a car. The driver didn't ask questions. He offered a soft smile and helped me load everything. "Congratulations," he said, gently nodding toward Arya. "She's beautiful," I whispered. "Thank you," because I couldn't trust my voice. I stared out the window the whole ride home, watching the city move like nothing had changed. But I had. The moment I stepped into the apartment, I felt it. The air was different. Ethan's coat was gone. So was his laptop. The bottom drawer of the dresser empty. He hadn't just left the hospital. He'd left the home. No note, no text. Just an absence you could feel in the corners of the room. I walked Arya to her nursery and sat in the glider. Everything was still exactly as we'd planned. The moon lamp he picked out, the books he said he wanted to read to her, the mobile he insisted on hanging himself, all untouched. But now they looked like props on a set he'd abandoned. That evening, Mara came over with a thick manila envelope. "Here," she said, setting it on the table. "Your next step." I opened it to find the draft of a legal declaration prepared in response to Ethan's deferral. "You'll submit this if he ever files for paternity rights," she said. It includes everything: timestamps, refusal forms, doctor's statement, your signed birth certificate, screenshots, and today's email. I flipped through the pages. So many versions of the same story. And all of it, mine. You're not just reacting anymore, Mara added. You're establishing a record. That's how you win. Not with drama. With documentation. I looked up. Do you think he's going to try to come back? She paused. Only when he realizes control is slipping. Not out of love, out of entitlement. I swallowed. What if Arya asks one day about him? You'll tell her the truth, Mara said. That her mother chose her fully, while her father did not. I nodded slowly. That night while Arya slept, I filled out the final section of my own statement. Declaration of Intent. Parental Responsibility, File 429M. I, Jessica Moreno, affirm that I offered full access to legal paternity documentation to Mr. Ethan Moreno at time of our daughter's birth, August 18. Mr. Moreno declined as documented in Form 381P and Statement 1911C. At no point did Mr. Moreno express a willingness to assume financial, legal, or emotional responsibility. All communications beyond hospital care were deferred to legal representation. Accordingly, I proceed as sole guardian of Arya Elise Moreno, born August 18 at 3:12 p.m. Maternity Room 304. I signed it slowly, then scanned and saved a digital copy in 4 separate folders. I emailed it to Mara. I backed it up to the cloud. Then I sat in the dark nursery again, letting the silence settle. But this time it didn't feel hollow. It felt clean, a space cleared of false promises, of half-efforts, of a man who smiled at a baby and still walked away. I opened it to find the draft of a legal declaration prepared in response to Ethan's deferral. You'll submit this if he ever files for paternity rights, she said. It includes everything: timestamps, refusal forms, doctor's statement, your signed birth certificate, screenshots, and today's email. I flipped through the pages. So many versions of the same story. And all of it, mine. You're not just reacting anymore, Mara added. You're establishing a record. That's how you win. Her hair was pulled back too tightly, her eyes darting before she even stepped fully into the apartment. I thought you could use a break, she said. From what I asked, not moving from the doorway. From everything, she replied. Newborn life stress. Lawyers. I didn't let her in right away. I just stood there, blocking her view of the inside. He sent you, didn't he? I asked. She hesitated, then gave me the look I'd seen her wear too many times, the one that said she was about to defend the indefensible. He's just feeling overwhelmed. He didn't expect things to move this fast. They didn't move fast, I said. They moved forward. Without him. She held out the coffee like it would soften things. Jess, he's not a bad person. He's just scared. This is all too big. He thought he'd have time. I stepped back slightly, letting her into the hallway, but no further. Time for what? To decide if his daughter exists, she exhaled. He didn't mean for it to go this far. The lawyers were just precaution. Precaution against what I asked. Parenthood. Leah looked genuinely conflicted now. He's not like this, she said. He's not cold. But he is calculated, I snapped. He didn't flinch when he filed a refusal while I slept. He didn't hesitate to walk out before rounds. He had a lawyer send me a disclaimer instead of a message, and now he sends you. Because he's not brave enough to look me in the eye. Leah's jaw tensed. He's trying to find the right way to come back. There is no way back, I said. He signed it. It's done. Her voice cracked then. He's still her father. I didn't yell. I didn't move. I just asked, is he? She opened her mouth but couldn't answer. I stepped aside just enough to reveal the living room behind me. The baby swing, the changing table, the hospital folder still sitting on the coffee table. He's not here, I said. Not in name, not in effort, not in anything. And you coming here doesn't change that. It only proves that he still thinks everything can be fixed without accountability. Leah looked away. He thought you'd wait. He was wrong. I handed her the coffee back unopened. I don't need caffeine. I need consistency. She held it for a second, then slowly walked back toward the door. Before she left, she turned one last time. Are you sure this is what you want? I'm sure this is what she needs, I said, and that's all that matters now. When she was gone, I stood there for a long moment, letting the silence fall again. But this time, it wasn't lonely. It was honest. That evening, I received the confirmation from the hospital's records office. The footage request had been processed. I opened the file on my laptop and watched as the timestamp read 0411 a.m. Ethan stood in the hallway, shoulders back, form in hand. Camilla approached, said something inaudible. He nodded, handed the form to her, walked to the elevator. No hesitation, no second glance. No regret, just the quiet choreography of someone erasing themselves. I took a screenshot, logged it into my document timeline. Then I opened a new email draft. Not to him, but to the hospital's family coordinator. Subject: request for certificate. Reprint single parent body hello. I would like to request a reprint of Aria Elise Moreno's birth certificate with no paternal data attached. Legal refusal and hospital documentation have been submitted. Please confirm when this will be processed. I hit send. That night I wrote a letter to Aria. She was too young to read it, but one day she would. My beautiful girl, you were born into a moment of quiet betrayal. A room where someone smiled at you but didn't stay. But I want you to know your arrival was not met with absence. It was met with choice. I chose you. Every signature, every form, every legal filing was an act of love. Not revenge, not fear. Love. You won't have to wonder why your father isn't in the pictures. He chose not to be. But you will never question whether you were wanted. Because I'm here. I stayed. And I will keep staying every day. You were born into strength, and you will grow in it. I sealed the letter in an envelope and placed it in the fireproof box with her hospital band and the first sonogram. Proof of the truth she would someday need. Not every parent is present at birth, but some absences echo louder than words, and some mothers fill the silence with a presence that never leaves. The birth certificate arrived 5 days later by certified mail. A flat envelope, cream-colored, stamped with the state seal. I signed for it at the door while Aria slept in her wrap against my chest. I carried it to the table, sat down slowly, and opened it without ceremony. It was simple. Clean. Her name centered on the top: Aria Elise Moreno, Mother Jessica Moreno, Father blank. That space was a clean wound, no erasure, just absence formalized. I stared at it for a while, not out of sadness but clarity. This was the payoff. The moment I crossed from betrayed to unbound. I signed the final confirmation form, folded everything carefully, and filed it with the rest of the legal packet. The only thing missing was a notarized copy for court, something Mara would handle tomorrow. That evening, I took Aria to her first pediatric appointment. The clinic was warm, with light jazz playing overhead and a gentle hum of printers and footsteps in the hallway. Dr. Bhatia greeted us with a wide smile and soft hands. She's alert, she said. Very aware for 5 days old. She's been through a lot, I said. The doctor didn't pry. She just nodded, examining Aria with practiced care. Weight's good, reflexes solid, heartbeat steady. She paused and glanced at the intake form. I see we've left the paternal field blank. By necessity, I replied. Understood, she said. You're listed as sole guardian, yes. Then let's make that official here too. She adjusted the form in her chart and drew a single line through the empty father section. Initialed it. I sealed the letter in an envelope and placed it in the fireproof box with her hospital band and the first sonogram. Proof of the truth she would someday need. Not every parent is present at birth, but some absences echo louder than words, and some mothers fill the silence with a presence that never leaves. The birth certificate arrived 5 days later by certified mail. A flat envelope, cream-colored, stamped with the state seal. Everything okay? The nurse asked. Everything's perfect, I said. Let's book her 6-week visit. That night, I told Mara what happened. She was quiet for a second, then said, He came to see, not to stay. That's his pattern now. Let him keep it. It didn't feel like a goodbye, I said. Because it wasn't, she replied. It was a check-in. A reminder that he can still appear, but it doesn't mean he belongs. I looked down at Aria, sleeping soundly, her tiny fist curled against her cheek. I didn't expect him to look guilty, I whispered. Did he? No, I said. He looked uncertain. Mara nodded. That's worse. We sat in silence for a while, and then she said, Tomorrow we notarize everything. Finalize your file. After that, you don't owe him another thought until he files something. And even then you'll be 10 steps ahead. I want to believe that, I said. Then read the documents again, she said. Belief is built on paper now. The next morning we went to the notary. The office was beige and quiet, smelling faintly of toner and hand sanitizer. The clerk didn't ask questions, just stamped the packet, checked my ID, and handed me a sealed copy of my custody file. Declaration file #Fort Wayne M signed, sealed, verified. When we got home, I placed it in the safe alongside Arya's birth certificate, the refusal form, the physician's statement, and my handwritten letter. I locked the box, turned the dial, and placed the key in a drawer I never used. Then I picked up my daughter and walked into the sunlight pooling across the living room floor. I sat on the rug, cross-legged, with her in my lap. She opened her eyes and blinked against the brightness. I whispered. He watched from across the street. But I'll always be here from across the room. Some people hover outside your life, just close enough to remind you they left, but far enough to never truly return. And some mothers sign alone, not because they're abandoned, but because they've chosen to end the waiting. The first time Arya smiled in her sleep, I wasn't holding my phone. There was no photo, no timestamp, no witness but the quiet rhythm of the room. She was 6 weeks old, curled in a fleece blanket that still smelled faintly of baby soap and new cotton. Her lips curved gently, a peaceful crescent that seemed to say, "I'm safe." I didn't cry. I just stared, heartful, because in that tiny motion I saw every reason I had said yes to all the hard things. No one prepares you for the after. Not the after of birth, but the after of betrayal. The weeks where you live in a haze of feeding schedules and legal folders, where the silence from someone who should have stayed becomes louder than a scream. But slowly, life expands around the absence. Routines build. Sleep returns. And the room fills with new sounds, hiccups, coos, the shuffle of tiny socks on the floor. I took Arya for a walk that morning. It was cool out, late September, the kind of air that feels like a second start. Leaves cracking softly under the wheels of the stroller. We passed the bakery where Ethan once promised we'd bring our daughter after her first shots. The barista glanced out the window, recognized me, waved. I waved back. No explanation necessary. Small towns remember, but they don't always ask. At the park, I sat on a bench under the elm tree. A father nearby was chasing a toddler across the grass. His partner laughed as the little boy collapsed dramatically in mock exhaustion. For a moment, I let myself feel it, the echo of what I thought we'd have, not with regret, but with understanding. That was never ours. And I had stopped reaching for it. Instead, I focused on the warmth of Arya in my arms, the way she stirred but didn't cry, trusting the world would hold her. She didn't know who wasn't there. She only knew who was. My phone buzzed. A new message. Ethan Moreno. Can we talk? I stared at it. No hello, no apology, just an invitation to reopen something that had been legally, emotionally, spiritually closed. I didn't respond. Not because I didn't have words, but because not everything deserves a reply. And the room fills with new sounds, hiccups, coos, the shuffle of tiny socks on the floor. I took Arya for a walk that morning. It was cool out, late September, the kind of air that feels like a second start. Leaves cracking softly under the wheels of the stroller. We passed the bakery where Ethan once promised we'd bring our daughter after her first shots. The barista glanced out the window, recognized me, waved. I waved back. No explanation necessary. Small towns remember, but they don't always ask. At the park, I sat on a bench under the elm tree. A father nearby was chasing a toddler across the grass. His partner laughed as the little boy collapsed dramatically in mock exhaustion. For a moment, I let myself feel it, the echo of what I thought we'd have, not with regret, but with understanding. That was never ours. And I had stopped reaching for it. Instead, I opened my gallery, scrolled through the last 6 weeks. There she was, yawning at sunrise, swaddled beside the window, clenching my finger with surprising force. No gaps, no questions, no missing pieces. That night, I deleted his number. Not blocked. Not hidden, just erased. Because when someone chooses not to show up, you stop making space for them in the guest list of your life. I printed 3 photos from the last week and pinned them on the fridge. Arya's first bath. He just never caught up to the love we already had. I don't tell this story to vilify. I tell it to document, to affirm, to remind anyone listening that you can be the one who stays. That a blank space on a certificate isn't a flaw, it's a decision, a boundary, a promise. That child will grow up not with half a family but with a whole truth, and that truth will never be silent. Not in this home, not in her heart. Some stories end with the door closing softly behind someone walking away, but ours began with one opening wide to let someone in. And this time the signature that mattered most wasn't the one he refused, it was the one I gave every single day.